Hey, Billy Beck III. If you don't know me, I am the Metrics World's Best Personal Trainer 2 years in a row. I'm also in the Fitness Hall of Fame, and basically, this is all I know. I know muscles and food and stuff like that, and that's about it. But I spend most of my life interviewing really smart people, people that are great at what they do, and then I learn from them and then use that to help other people like yourself. And today is a really important show because there's some things that go unsaid, especially in the fitness industry, because it's always about the aesthetics, about the look. And then a lot of times you don't see what happens behind the scenes. I've worked with a number of fitness models, some really, cover models, good-looking people, and if you would really get to know them, you find that a lot of times they're really hard on themselves and not really happy. And I don't really think that's what fitness is about. Fitness is about more than that. It's about tapping into who you really are and living a life where you feel good about yourself, and you feel good about your everything, but you really are there to serve from your heart. And today we're going to talk about that. And I brought someone in here that I've known for a long time that's not only knows how to help women in this situation, but she's gone through it herself. And so the thing we're talking about is body image. And there's, and you probably know, but I don't think you know the extent of it probably, but if you're listening and you've gone through this, you really understand that there's not a lot of people talking about it. And because everyone's trying to sell you something to make you feel pretty. And so this sort of solution that, well, if I feel pretty, then I'll be happy. But the truth is there's so much more to it. But let's not talk too much about it. Let's talk to someone who really knows this stuff. That is Andrea De Leon. How are you, Andrea?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you.
So, Andrea, let's start with your stories, just so we know where this all comes from. Like, when did you get into working out? When did you get into dieting? How did it all begin?
Oh boy. So I got into working out and dieting when I was 13, I believe. I started doing I was crazy about looking a certain way in high school and not being judged by my friends. And I learned at a very, very, very young age that my worth was directly related to the way I looked and to being thin. And if I wasn't thin, then I wasn't accepted or I wasn't loved or any of those things. So from a very young age, I started dieting, working out, I started modeling, and with modeling, it got worse and worse. I started developing an eating disorder. I was bulimic for about 6 years, and then when I went to college, it got even worse. Then from there, it was just, it became a struggle. Even when I stopped throwing up, it became a struggle of overeating, binge eating, body image, just being really hard on myself, not being able to wear a bikini or go to the beach or like go to family gatherings because I was afraid of the food that would be there. I was afraid of people seeing the weight I had gained. I was afraid of everything about the weight.
And how much weight did you actually gain?
I was probably about, I'm at a pretty good place now. I was probably about 30 or 40 pounds heavier.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was probably closer to 30 pounds. Yeah.
Gotcha. And this is when you went to college?
This was last senior year of high school, and then college got really, really, really bad. And so then I came back home. I went to psychologist, psychiatrist, nutritionist. I went into a rehab facility for a very small, like a day, because I was like, I need to get out of here. I can't do this. And from there, what saved my life in the beginning was this man, Billy Beck III,
Me.
as well as introducing me to also Tony Robbins, right? So finally getting on that personal development and realizing where it all stemmed from. And because for so long I was trying to control my food. I thought the enemy was my body. I thought food was the enemy. I couldn't be around food. I couldn't have it around the house. I couldn't do anything that would just put me into that required willpower. I thought willpower was my problem. But I realized for so long that it wasn't. Now I realized that it was more my feelings, my thoughts, my beliefs, right? And so doing all of that internal work with Tony, and then, I became a nutritionist thinking that would help. And working with people and realizing that meal plans wasn't it. Like, people know not to eat vegetables. People know
to eat vegetables.
Oh, people know to eat vegetables. They
I
know
agree with you, though.
not to. They know not to binge on cookies and stuff.
Right.
But why do they do it still?
Yes.
So it was more the psychology and the emotional side of it, which is a lot of what I started learning with Tony, and then later on, I did a self-love course, food freedom course, became a coach on that, and that has been life-changing from there.
That's interesting. So let me ask you a question. So when you were in high school and going through all this, were you aware of, there was a point where you become aware of something, right? Like you just you felt unhappy and you kept just dieting harder in order to lose weight. Is that what you were doing?
Yes. It felt normal though. Like it felt like this is what everyone did. Like I would talk to my friends and everyone would just connect through, oh yeah, I'm not eating this because I'm on a diet. I'm going to eat my Slim Fast bars. And then my girlfriend's
It's high school?
Yeah.
Slim Fast bars?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was all I would take for lunch was a Slim Fast bar.
So tell me what you ate on a typical day when you were in high school doing your diet.
Well, Slim Fast.
That's it?
Yeah. I would eat Slim Fast bars. I would go home and I would try to have vegetables, but I hated vegetables. I hated them. So I would force myself to eat all these things that I didn't want to eat, chicken and all these things. But then it would come to a point where I would just go crazy and binge. Cookies are my thing. So I would binge on cookies, then ice cream. Then this is going to sound really bad, but I realized ice cream was really easy to throw up.
Oh, really?
So I would binge on ice cream like crazy. And then that's where it developed this thing. I remember the first day I threw up.
How old were you?
I was a senior in high school.
Okay. And were you gaining weight at that point or not yet?
No, I was probably the skinniest I've ever been, but it was that pressure of I can't gain any weight. And so I had eaten a birthday cake at a party and I was always dieting for so long. And I was like, okay, I can't. And I was like, oh, well, it's okay if I only do it in certain situations, like at birthdays when I overeat on a birthday cake. That's not a problem. I don't have an eating disorder.
Right.
I'm doing it from time to time. But then it's also important to realize that it's not just throwing up. A lot of times we purge through exercise, and that's a lot of what I was doing. I would overeat one night, and then I would go exercise for 2 or 3 hours. And I thought that was totally normal. Like, that's okay. That's what everyone does. Everyone works out to burn off calories that they ate the night before, right? So, so I thought it was really healthy.
And then how did you know to throw up? Did one of your friends do it?
Yeah. So we were at a party, and the thought had crossed my mind. I was like, man, I can't. It was the guilt. There was so much guilt behind eating this birthday cake. It was just a piece of cake. It wasn't even that bad. And I hadn't gained weight yet or anything like that. And I was talking to a friend and I was like, man, I wish I could throw this up. And she was like, oh, I've done it before. Let's just go throw up. And so at the party, we both went into the bathroom and she taught me how to throw up. That was the first time I threw up. And it got worse and worse and worse from there.
And then when did you realize you had a problem?
In college, definitely.
When you gained weight?
When I gained weight.
When it wasn't working anymore. Were you still throwing up then?
It wasn't working. Yeah. And you know what? I worked with women before that have been anorexic and then started into like binge eating. And it's that where they're like, oh, my eating disorder doesn't work anymore because now I'm gaining weight. So it's that it got to a point where I was like, this isn't working. I don't know what's happening. And now food is controlling my life. Like literally, I lost my scholarship at UCF. I lost everything because I wouldn't even study. Like it was so much anxiety, so much everything that my life revolved around. There was a Walmart right next to my dorm, and I was walking distance, so I would walk downstairs, go to the Walmart, and get ice cream, get cookies, get everything, eat all day, throw up, go get more. It's like a drug addict.
Wow.
It's just food is the most.
You do it every day?
That, like my worst days, yes. There was days that were better that I would try to wake up and, it wasn't every single day. I can't say that, but yeah. And then it got to a point, and that was where I realized, like, I need to work on this, was I was so embarrassed to see the same cashiers buying the same, like, cookies and ice creams and everything that I started stealing food.
What? You started stealing food from Walmart?
Yeah, from Walmart. And I was like, this is a problem. This is a drug addict.
And
literally.
a criminal act.
Yeah.
Now it's affecting other people.
Yeah. And so there I was like, no, this is unacceptable. What is going on? Like, why can't I control myself? And so it was the guilt of eating, the guilt of other people seeing me, and then the shame of the cashier seeing me, but I couldn't control it, or I thought I couldn't control it. I was the victim.
Yeah.
Right?
How did you steal stuff?
I would just go with like my backpack from school or like a big purse where I had my laptop. And then I would like go into corners where I thought no one could see me. I don't know.
Well, it's funny to me because I've known you for like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And, like if you guys never met Andrea probably, if you're listening to this, but she is the nicest human. Like for her to steal something, I've never heard this before, so it's blowing my mind. Like she would do anything to help people, and yet she was in such a tough place that you were a different human.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing to me.
Yeah. I never in a million years thought that I would be where I am today, ever. Like I didn't think it was possible to get out of that.
Yeah.
And again, I thought I was a victim of my circumstances, and I kept looking for maybe it's in my genes, maybe it's not me, maybe it's just something I need a quick fix. Like maybe it's my thyroid. I don't know, like whatever. I kept looking for something outside of me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the biggest thing has been realizing that it was all within me, and everything was within me.
Yeah.
So.
And then you come back home from college, you lose your scholarship, and then what happens?
I lose my scholarship first, and everything was so much shame, guilt around all of it that I couldn't even tell my mom. Yeah. So I got
and you were really close to your mom.
Yeah, and I got a loan without her knowing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She thought I was still on a scholarship.
Yeah, and that to pay for school.
Yeah, and to pay for my living. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I came back home, and that's where I started working with everyone, psychologist, psychiatrist, nutritionist, and even I should have known from there. But the moment I worked with a nutritionist, she was like, "Okay, here's your meal plan," and I was like, I walked out of there and I threw it away. I'm like, this doesn't help me.
Yeah.
But I got to restrict more. I have to, and so, but the therapist was what I thought helped me the most. And I wanted to be able to do that. Walking out of the first session with the therapist and being able to talk about it and get things out. Yeah. I wanted to be able to do that for other women. I was like, I want to be able to hold space for them. I want to be able to help them. And so that was what kind of became my mission. At the time, I was in engineering. I did 3 years of biomedical engineering. And after that, after meeting with the therapist for the first time, I was like, I need to go into nutrition because I need to solve this for myself and for others. And so I went into nutrition, and I should have gone into psychology, I guess, but I didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
And so I went into nutrition, and that's where I kind of started on this path. Yeah.
And at one point, I remember you did a fitness competition.
Yes.
And what inspired that? Because that's like playing with fire.
I know.
You know, when you go through something like that.
I know. It was a really, really bad idea.
Yeah, so like...
You told me all that.
I did. I warned her. Because I compete in bodybuilding, and I just did it because I was training people. I trained the Mr. America, and I was really young. I was like 21, 22, and all the older trainers were like ripping on me like, oh, you don't know, you got lucky. And I was like, and they competed, so I was like, oh, I better compete just because I let other people like peer pressure me into wearing Speedos is ridiculous. Anyway, I won. I didn't take a single bite of anything that wasn't on my program. And as soon as I was done, I won, and I was like, all right. And I instantly ate a bag of cookies, and I couldn't, I was eating so bad because once you peak, you can only get worse. You can't maintain it either. And so it's psychologically, it is tough. And then it took me probably 6 months just to be normal again. If I'm normal, but normal for me. Yeah. But so for a woman, it's even more extreme than a man. Yeah. So you did that competition. What was that? Just tell us the experience, because there's a lot to do. It takes a lot of time too.
Yeah. So I was already working with you. I was already working with Billy. And so I was introduced to Tony Robbins, and I was doing all of that work. And I was like, oh, I'm fixed. I'm good. I'm good to go. And I was counting calories, and it was easier counting calories. So I thought it was all good. I was able to do it. Everyone around me was competing. I was still in that fitness world. So my friends were competing, and I wanted to look like the girls on Instagram, and I wanted to push my body to that level and know that I could do it, because I could never stick to anything. So I wanted to stick to this really big thing. I couldn't choose a smaller thing. So from there, I started doing it. I started counting calories, and it started driving me insane. Just like everything else, just like back in college, I started going back to, I would count the calories and I would run out of calories for the day, but I still wanted it, and I was craving stuff. And so I would go and and I would binge on something, and then I started going back to throwing up, and I hadn't thrown up in years, and so it brought me back to those days. So I threw up my way to the stage, and then while I was on stage, it was just comparing myself to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, again, I was, even though I did everything I could, I wasn't skinny enough. All the girls looked better than me.
Mm-hmm.
So beating myself up.
And you're looking in the mirror how many times a day?
Yeah.
Check out your body how many times a day.
Exactly. And just critiquing my body. And there's a little bit of extra fat here and a little bit of extra fat there. And then afterwards, just like you said, we all went to eat and everyone was binging, and what I was doing in private was now totally acceptable in public. And I was like, whoa, this is normal in this industry? Like, this is not okay. So that was my first and last time that I did a competition because...
Yeah, and then you said did you go to Tony's seminar, or you started watching videos, listen to his programs or something like that?
Yeah, and then a Tony seminar. Yeah,
because it's funny because people will say say they do a program and then they watch, Tony or, Jim Rohn or Zig Ziglar online, and then they're like, oh, I know that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's about mastery. It's about constantly studying and doing little things to where you really control them, and nothing on the external is influencing you. So many people like what, in this situation is they're so caught up in the way they look on something outside them and what other people think of them that they lose track of who they really are. Mm-hmm. And then if they have a fat day, the scale goes up a little bit. Now that ruins their day, maybe their week. And if it goes down, now I can be happy. But there's still a fear, if I understand what you're saying, of it going up at any moment. Yeah. And so it's like a gauge of your self-worth.
Exactly.
That's pretty brutal.
Yes, the self-worth was 100% linked to the scale.
Yeah. And then, and obviously you've mastered this area of your own life. But when you get to mastery, is this something you can just forget about, or is it still something you have to be aware of?
Weight-wise, or just
like the whole situation, like with weight, like what's when you get to the level you're at now, what's the difference between, when you look in the mirror now compared to when you looked in the mirror, say in high school or when you were binging?
I can't even compare it. I don't even think, right? Like now it's so crazy. I've done a lot of mirror work and a lot of different meditations and different things, but now I look in the mirror and I'm used to now doing mirror work in the sense of like standing in front of the mirror and sending myself love. And so now every time I look in the mirror, I just feel love for myself. There's no judgment. There's no any of that. And it's so crazy because as soon as I shifted those things within myself, I don't find myself judging others. At all like I used to. I was with a friend not long ago and she's like, oh, look at that girl's clothes and I'm like, in my clothes, and I'm like, you're only judging her clothes because you're judging yourself and your own, you know what I mean? So you're trying to compare it to hers. But I don't see myself doing that at all anymore. It's such a huge shift that I never ever thought was possible. Ever. And I talk to women now and they're like, no, there's no way you were at that place. I'm like, no. I was. Like,
when you're in it, it's hard to believe, right?
Yeah. Like they're like, no, I can't get out of it. Like this, I'm stuck with this way. And I was on antidepressants. I was on anti-anxiety. I've had suicidal thoughts at times, and it's just, I never thought I'd be here, but it's such a huge shift, such a 180. I haven't stepped on a scale. I can't even tell you in how long. I could care less.
That's good. That's amazing. It's good to hear that. Because a lot of people teach courses, I know a lot of people obviously and teach courses, and a lot of times they I know bodybuilders that take steroids that sell programs to people, and so it's like, does that really work for that person? So the fitness industry is, in every industry, there's people just trying to make money, especially with health and fitness, and where there's pain, there's profit. That's the saying, right? And so strong marketers, that's where they go. Even if they know nothing about the subject area, they will hire someone in the Philippines to write an ebook, and then they'll put the marketing together, and I'll read it. I'm like, I'll buy that. I don't have an eating disorder, but I'll do it because it's so good. Like, marketing is amazing. Like, I respect those people, but at the same time, there's an integrity issue a lot of times. And then what bothers me is when someone makes a promise and they said, hey, this program is going to work, and they do it. and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't blame the person that lied to them, the marketer that lied to them. They blame themselves. And every time you set a goal and you don't follow through, a little piece of you dies, a little piece of belief, self-belief. And that's why, I'm glad you're helping people with this, because you're not just a person that studies psychology and says, okay, let me help you. You're a person that went through it, and then there's this pain and suffering you have to go through. When you go through that, you learn at a different level. It's at a spiritual level. It's something you embody. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that gives you an advantage in helping people, honestly, where someone could have 5 PhDs or PsyDs, doctor of psychology, and still not understand it because they don't have the empathy that you would have because you've been there. And then also it's inspiring to see someone, like you meet someone that's in the middle of that. And then they say, oh, wow, she was there and now she's not. That's like, there's hope for me. And I know you have a friend that's with you now, right?
Yeah. She's staying with me now, and she was kind of going through the same thing. Mm-hmm. Crazy binge eating, had gained.
What triggered all of it?
A breakup, pretty much. From a young age, she was always very much same thing, believed her worth was in her looks, all those things. We went to college together, and, she was binging here and there, but it didn't affect her this much. She broke up, or a boyfriend broke up with her, and it was when she had gained some weight. And so she directly linked that to, like, I'm, weight gain and all these things, or just I lose love, or I'm not accepted because I'm overweight now. And she started binging. And she went back, because she lived with her boyfriend in Australia, came back home, and she went down this rabbit hole too of just binging, gaining more weight, then got on antidepressants, and that didn't help, anti-anxiety, bipolar, like so many different medications. And she just kept trying to control it through. So she came to me, she reached out to me because she was like, I need a diet plan. I need something to work because I need to lose the weight, because my problems will all be fixed once I lose weight. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I started coaching her, went deeper with her. We just started doing all the emotional work, and she's like a different person. And it's crazy because when you embody those things, and that's what you were saying, like the difference between where I was at, where I thought I had fixed myself with hearing Tony, was I knew it intellectually, but I hadn't embodied that information yet, right? Like it wasn't that mastery, is that embodiment. It's kind of the way I would say it. And so to now, it's like this deep knowing that, that I am worthy innately, that it has nothing to do with my looks and all these different things that we learn intellectually. It's really, really learning that at a deeper level. And so that's where she's getting to now. And it's crazy because it's not like I don't focus on food anymore, therefore I eat really bad. It's like I'm so much more in tune with my body now, where I know this is gonna make me feel good. This isn't. Most of the time it's vegetables. Mm-hmm. And but every once in a while it's a cookie, and I'm good with it. But I just do what feels good, and the weight all of a sudden is released. And it's kind of what's happening for her now too. She doesn't need to binge anymore, because now she's going off of what feels good for her, and listening to her body, listening to her hunger signals, which so many of us lose track of. We were born as babies, and we know, like, okay, we want milk at a certain time, we're done, we stop. And then as we grow up, our parents are like, oh, you have to finish the plate. You have to get big and strong, so you have to eat everything. But now it's just making us big, right? Because we just don't stop eating.
Big and not the best way.
Yeah.
Well, there's different types of hunger too, as you know, and you teach this, but it's there's when you can eat intuitively, you're eating mindfully. There's a book called Mindful Eating that teaches it, and you don't really need to read it. It's just you just need to be in a calm, relaxed state and not be watching television. There's a study that if you'll eat 40% more food if you watch the news while you eat, just because you're eating mindlessly. Mm-hmm. And so it's really common. But you touch on a lot of things that are really, really important. And one thing I remember reading a book a long time ago, it was by a plastic surgeon, Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And he was a great plastic surgeon back in the 50s and 60s. And the story he told was he worked on a woman who was in a car accident. And she was very beautiful woman, and she was worried because her whole life was her looks. So her body image was like, oh my God. And then her face got messed up in our accident, and he worked on her, and he was very proud of his work, and he had a picture of her in a folder of her before, and a picture, and then he had a mirror, and he took the bandages off, and he shows the picture of her. She looked in the mirror, and she's like, I look the same. Like, she felt hideous. And then he goes, no, this is what you were before. Now look at you now. And like anyone else looking through our eyes is looking through a different lens, is like, wow, she looks better than before, if that's even possible. But your self-image is what's more important, because it changes the lens you see through the world. So if you think you're ugly and you're not enough, that you'll look through that lens all the time. So no matter what you do, you'll always find that thing, because that's the lens you look through. And so Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a book about it, and it was all about how can you improve someone's self-image. So the first thing I do is change the way you see yourself in order to be able to achieve other things in your life. And it's like everyone else is doing it pretty much backwards. It's like, hey, here's your meal plan, here's your workout plan, and not that you shouldn't do those things; those are an important part of life. But people are doing it through the wrong lens. They're looking through the lens of, you're going to fail no matter what. You can get in the best shape of your life, but if you're looking through that lens of that ugly and not enough, then nothing's going to change that until you change that lens.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
So how do people get more information?
Yeah, so the program itself, I have a 12-week program, and that's on ditchthescale.com.
Ditchthescale.com, spelled the way it sounds?
Yes.
Like bitch, but ditch
the
just
scale. Like that. Yeah. You could bitch the scale too. But
yeah, we should get that domain. Ditchthescale.com. Okay, great.
Yeah. And
then what's how long is that program?
It's 12 weeks.
And then you guide them through the program?
I guide them through everything. They have 12 weeks, 12 modules. A module releases every week. They have meditations. They have homework to go along with it. They have the movement practice to help them connect to their body, just feel gratitude in their body, feel love for their body, move emotions through movement, sound, breath, all those different things. Yeah. And then we have group coaching calls.
So you have a lot of support then, in other words.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting, let me ask you this. How long did it take for your transformation?
Oh my God.
More than 12 weeks, right?
So much more than 12 weeks. And so much money in coaches.
A lot of trial and error.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of trial and error, a lot of money spent, a lot of everything. Years and years and years of testing things. Yeah.
Yeah, and our dear friend Tony Robbins, he talks about modeling, and what that basically means is, and this was developed after World War II, where in the United States we needed more certain trained technicians, and the guys that I forget the gentleman's name, I think John Grinder, but anyway, it doesn't matter. They had to develop, usually it would take say 6 months to train a plumber. They found the best, most efficient plumbers and figured out what they did, what their practices were, and then they would take that same 6 month or a year program and turn it into 4 weeks, and had the same, and maybe even better skill than the people that trained longer. So it's immersion, and so that's what I like about doing a 12-week program, because it's not the end, but it is a step in the right direction. You're going to learn things that you'll do again and again and again.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in martial arts, it's so funny because I've trained in martial arts my whole life, and almost when you let's just use one everyone knows, boxing. Boxing is 4 strikes. That's it. And then you to get really good at it, you just need to know 4 strikes. There's nothing else. The way you get good at it is by doing it again and again and again and again. But when it comes to health and fitness, it's funny. Everyone's looking for the new diet. They're looking for the new exercise, something magical. But really what works is mastering your mind, because if you want to change your body, you first have to change your mind.
I agree. And it's what you said too. Everyone's doing it backwards. They're looking for the diet to lose the weight, and it's never about the weight. It's the feeling that they think losing the weight will get them to, right? So confidence, self-love, whatever, acceptance, all these different things. But so what I work on is, let's get to that place first. You could feel that today. Let's get there first. Let's get so confident, feel so much love, do all these different things, work on all the deeper things, so that as soon as that shifts, now the weight is just a byproduct. right?
Absolutely.
But doing it backwards is the goal here.
Yeah. So do it in a way where you actually get results.
Exactly.
Nice.
Like long lasting results. And that's where, you know, a lot of the women that come to me, it's women that have been yo-yo dieting for years. You try diets and then you gain the weight back and you're like, well, I don't have the willpower. It's not the willpower. It's so much deeper. So
Absolutely. Well, that's about time. Thanks, Andrea. And for all of you listening, if you're interested in the program, or you have friends that might be interested, go check out ditchthescale.com. Program starts at January 6th.
yes, January 6th.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you.